The rain began before sunrise. Not the kind that rushes in with thunder or drama, just a steady, patient rain, falling with a quiet persistence that reminded me of conversations I didn't want to have. It tapped against my apartment window like a heartbeat I couldn't ignore. The world outside looked blurred, washed in gray. Buildings softened, trees bowed under the weight. Inside, everything felt too still, like the air itself was holding its breath. I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of tea that had gone cold hours ago. The screen of my laptop glowed in the dim light, casting pale blue shadows across the room. There it was. The email. Your mortgage payment is now overdue by 45 days. I read it once, then again, my eyes scanning every line, every number. My heart didn't even race, not yet. It was the kind of disbelief that's too heavy to move through. A mortgage. In my name, I didn't own a house. I didn't even own this apartment. I rented it month to month. I barely owned the chair I was sitting on, but the email had my name. My full legal name. My address. The last 4 digits of my social security number. It was me. Completely, undeniably me. For a long time, I just stared at it, as if my silence could undo it. The rain filled the room with its rhythm, the clock ticked, and somewhere far away a siren wailed. Everything kept moving except me. I clicked the attachment, a scanned copy of the mortgage contract. There, at the bottom, was a signature that looked almost like mine. Almost. And that almost broke something inside me. Because deep down, I already knew who it was. My mother's handwriting was neat, round, deliberate. The same loops and slants she'd taught me as a child when she hovered over my homework. She used to say, "Your name is your promise, sweetheart." Write it like it means something. Now she'd written it for me. Used it against me. I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence swell. My mind flickered through possibilities. Identity theft, clerical error, scam. But every road led back to the same dead end. Family. It had always been family. I closed the laptop gently, the way you might close a door on a room you're not ready to enter. I took a deep breath and tried to let it out slowly, but it came out shaky, uneven. The rain pressed harder against the glass. The air smelled like metal and dampness, the kind that seeps into your bones. I thought about calling the bank, but I didn't move. I already knew I'd get another call first, and I was right. My phone buzzed across the table. The name flashed on the screen, Mom. For a moment, I just watched it vibrate. Then I answered, "Hi, Mom." My voice sounded small, even to me. "Oh, thank God you picked up." Her tone was warm, careful, the way it always was when she was about to confess something that wasn't really a confession. "We've been meaning to tell you something, honey. It's about the house. There it was. That single word that made everything click into place. I stared at the rain, following one droplet as it slid down the glass, merged with another, and disappeared. "What house?" I asked, though I already knew. "Your sister's house," she said lightly, as if it were obvious. "You know, the one she and Ryan were looking at last month." The bank wouldn't approve them. Too many debts, not enough credit. "So we used your name just to help them get started." The words didn't hit all at once. They landed one by one, quietly, almost politely, until their weight became unbearable. "You used my credit for their mortgage?" "Used?" She laughed, soft but sharp. No, honey. We borrowed your name. It's not the same thing. We'll all help pay it off, of course. You'll see, and it's just temporary. Don't make this dramatic. That last line. It was always the same line. I could almost see her face as she said it. Calm, slightly irritated, pretending to be hurt by my reaction. The same look she gave me when I told her I couldn't keep covering my dad's medical bills. Or when I said I couldn't co-sign Layla's first car loan. Don't make this dramatic. It was her favorite way to turn my pain into my fault. I pressed my thumb into my palm to keep from shaking. Mom, that's not how this works. You can't just, oh, come on, sweetheart. Her voice softened, dripping with that practiced guilt. Family helps family. You've always been the responsible one. Layla's had a hard time lately, and your father's blood pressure. Mom, I interrupted quieter this time. You forged my signature. She paused, just long enough for the silence to sting. Then she sighed. You make it sound so ugly. It's not like that. We're all on the same team, aren't we? It's your sister's future, for heaven's sake. We didn't want to bother you with the details. The rain outside turned heavier, pounding against the window like a warning I couldn't ignore anymore. "You didn't bother me," I said slowly. "You stole from me." Her tone hardened. "Don't use that word." There it was, the edge beneath the sweetness. The command. The unspoken threat of emotional exile. "Mom," I whispered, "this is fraud. You could go to jail?" "Oh, please," she laughed again, dismissive. "You wouldn't do that to your own mother. You've always understood how family works. Don't start acting like a stranger." That sentence cracked something open in me, something I'd been patching over for years. Family works. Family sacrifices. Family forgives, and I had believed it all, until now. I didn't answer her. I just listened to the rain. "Listen," she went on, her tone softening again. "Your sister's already moved in. Everything's under control. Just don't make a fuss. You know how your father gets when things get tense." When I was little, I used to think rain meant safety, that no one could argue when the world was that quiet. But that day, it felt like the sky itself was whispering the truth. Nothing was safe. I swallowed hard. "I need to go." She sounded almost relieved. "Good, take a breath, honey. Don't overthink it. We'll talk when you've calmed down." Then she hung up. The call ended with a soft click, but the silence that followed was deafening. I sat there for a long time, staring at the reflection of my face in the black screen of my laptop. My eyes looked tired, older maybe, like someone I used to know but hadn't seen in years. My mother's voice still echoed in my head. "You wouldn't do that to your own mother." I stood, walked to the window, and pressed my palm against the cold glass. Outside, the city lights blurred through the rain, glowing faintly like they were trying to find their way back through the storm. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I whispered into the empty room, "You did it again." The tea on the table had gone cold, untouched. I lifted it anyway, took a sip, and winced. It tasted bitter, metallic, like something that had been left too long, waiting. And for the first time, I realized, so had I. That night, the rain followed me home. All the way back to the house, I swore I'd never step inside again. The drive there felt like slipping backward through time. Every street corner, every flickering streetlight carried a memory I didn't want. The wipers dragged across the windshield in tired, rhythmic sweeps. I should have gone anywhere else, but when betrayal wears the face of the people who raised you, there's no somewhere else. There's only back. The house stood at the end of the cul-de-sac like a memory too stubborn to fade. The porch light flickered the way it always had, blinking like it was caught between wanting to glow and giving up entirely. For a long moment, I just sat in the car, engine idling, headlights cutting across the peeling paint of the front door. I half hoped the rain would drown the courage building in my chest. But courage, I've learned, doesn't come loudly. It comes when you're too tired to run. I killed the engine. Stepped out, and the rain immediately clung to me, heavy, cold, determined. Before I even reached the door, it opened. Mom stood there in her robe, her hair pinned back, her expression rehearsed, half warmth, half warning. "Oh, sweetheart, you came," she said, voice trembling just enough to sound delicate. "I told your father you'd understand once you calmed down." Her words were a mirror of the past, the same rhythm, the same tone she'd used after every disappointment she'd caused. I'd always been the one expected to fold first, to soften the blow with silence. "I didn't come to understand," I said quietly. "I came to talk." She stepped aside, her smile thinning. "Fine. Come in before you catch a cold." The house smelled the same, a mix of lavender air freshener and something faintly burnt from the kitchen. But beneath it all was that deeper scent of memory, the kind that clings to furniture, to walls, to you. Every detail was painfully familiar. The same beige carpet, the same family photos lining the hall. Except now I looked at them differently. I saw the weight behind each picture. Me holding my sister's diploma, me smiling next to Dad's hospital bed, me always there. Always the one who understood. Layla's laughter echoed from upstairs. When she appeared at the top of the staircase, phone in hand, I felt a wave of disbelief so strong I nearly laughed. She was wearing one of those oversized sweatshirts that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Hair twisted into a perfect bun, her nails done. "Oh, look who decided to show up," she said, smirking. "Before you start, it's not a big deal." "Not a big deal?" I repeated. My voice came out calm, too calm. A $500,000 mortgage in my name isn't a big deal? She rolled her eyes. You make it sound worse than it is. You have good credit. You'll barely feel it. We'll handle the payments eventually. Mom placed a hand on her arm as if guiding her words. Your sister just needs time, honey. You've always had a better head for money. You know how to handle these things. I stared at both of them, my heart thudding quietly. You forged my signature. Do you even realize what that means? Layla's smirk faltered. Oh, please. Don't act like we robbed a bank. I almost laughed, but it wasn't funny. It was something colder. A soundless kind of laugh that comes when pain has nowhere else to go. You did, I said softly. You robbed me. Mom sighed as though I was the one ruining the evening. You always take things so personally. It's not about you. It's about family. Your father was having heart palpitations over the loan. Do you want to give him another episode? There it was again, the same weapon they'd always used. Guilt dressed as love. I walked into the living room and sat down on the old couch. The springs groaned under my weight like the house itself recognized me. The photo wall caught my eye again. Birthdays, holidays, forced smiles. I stared at one picture in particular, Layla holding her new car keys. I had co-signed that loan. She'd totaled it 6 months later. Back then, Mom had told me, "You're lucky to have a sister." Don't make her feel small. Small. That was always my job, to shrink so everyone else could stretch. Do you even hear yourselves? I asked. You keep saying family, but what you mean is me. Every time something goes wrong, I'm the solution. You don't ask, you decide. Mom crossed her arms, eyes narrowing. You think you've done so much? You wouldn't even have that apartment if we hadn't helped you when you were younger. Don't forget where you came from. I met her gaze. I haven't. That's the problem. For the first time, she looked unsettled. Maybe because my tone didn't shake this time. Maybe because I wasn't apologizing. Layla leaned against the banister. You're just jealous, she said. You hate that I finally got something good. Jealousy. It was such an easy word. Lazy, convenient. I wanted to tell her how I'd watched her stumble from one rescue to another, how every mistake she made was brushed aside because she's fragile, while I was the strong one, the fixer. But I didn't. She wouldn't hear it. None of them would. Mom's voice softened again. Honey, you've always been the responsible one. We just needed your help this once. This once? I whispered. You said that when I paid Dad's hospital bills. You said it when Layla's tuition got delayed. You said it when the credit card debt piled up. This isn't once. This is always. Her lips pressed together, no denial, no apology, just that familiar disapproval that made me feel 12 again. Don't talk to your mother like that, she said. Voice low. I stood up, the air in the room suddenly heavy. Then start acting like one. She flinched. Barely, but I saw it. The silence that followed felt alive, thick with every unsaid thing we'd been burying for years. Finally, Mom spoke, her tone clipped. You're tired. You don't mean that. Go home, get some rest. We'll sort this out later. But I wasn't tired. I was awake, fully, painfully awake for the first time in my life. I turned to leave, but the photo wall stopped me again. My younger self smiled back from those frames. Holding everyone together like glue, no one noticed until it ran out. I reached out, took one picture down, the one from years ago, when Dad had made us all laugh right before the camera clicked. For a second, I wanted to believe in that moment again, but I couldn't. I turned the photo over, pulled a pen from my bag, and wrote one word on the back. Enough. When I set it back on the shelf, face down, something inside me shifted. A quiet, invisible click, like the sound of a lock turning from the inside. Layla frowned. What are you doing? I looked at her. Leaving. You can't just walk away from this, Mom said sharply. You're part of this family. I met her eyes, and for once I didn't look away. That's what I'm trying to remember. The air felt still as I walked toward the door. Each step felt like stepping out of a spell, one that had kept me obedient for too long. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. The street shimmered under the lamplight, water collecting in the cracks like tiny mirrors. I stood there for a long time, breathing in the wet air, tasting salt I hadn't realized was from tears. Behind me, I could hear Mom's voice, muffled through the door, still talking, still defending, still twisting. But it didn't reach me anymore. For the first time in my life, her words didn't stick. I walked to my car, the night closing around me like a quiet promise. When I started the engine, the headlights cut through the rain, revealing the faint reflection of the house in my rearview mirror. Small, shrinking, fading with every second, and as I drove away, I didn't feel guilty. I felt something else. Something new. Freedom doesn't roar. It whispers. And that whisper followed me all the way home. The morning after I left their house, the sky was pale and empty. That washed-out color that comes right after too much rain. The world looked freshly wrung out. Streets shimmered, the trees gleamed wet, and my windows were fogged from my own breath. I hadn't slept much. The night had been a carousel of thoughts. Old memories looping, words replaying, faces I didn't want to see. But beneath all that noise, there was a strange kind of quiet. A decision forming. When betrayal comes from strangers, it wounds you. When it comes from blood, it rewrites you. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I showered, made tea, and opened my laptop again. The same spot where this had all started. But this time, the light coming through the blinds felt different. Softer, maybe. Or maybe I was just done flinching. I logged into my bank account. The numbers felt heavy. Balances, debts, the mortgage that wasn't mine. Then I opened a new tab and searched. Report mortgage fraud family member. The words looked ugly together. But the truth often does. My finger hovered over the enter key. For a moment, I thought of my mother's voice. You wouldn't do that to your own family. Then I pressed it anyway. Within minutes, I was on the phone with a woman from the fraud division. Her tone was professional, careful, not unkind. Ma'am, we'll need to verify a few things, she said. You're saying the mortgage was opened without your knowledge or consent? Yes. Do you know who might have done it? There was a pause. A long, quiet kind of pause, where you can hear your own heart trying to decide whether to protect or to heal. Yes, I said finally. My mother and my sister, the words came out steady. But afterward, the silence in the room felt enormous. The woman on the line didn't react. She'd probably heard worse. All right, she said softly. We'll need documentation. Anything that connects the account to your name, emails, statements, copies of the contract if you have them. I gathered everything I'd saved. Screenshots. The original email. My ID. And that mortgage contract with the imitation of my signature at the bottom. I'll have an investigator contact you, she said. They'll help you file an identity theft report. It's a process, but we'll get you through it. After I hung up, I sat there for a while listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator. The world outside beginning to move again. Cars, voices, a dog barking somewhere down the street. It all felt distant, like life was happening behind a pane of glass. And I was watching from the other side, but I didn't feel broken. Just empty in a peaceful way. That day I took off work. I printed every document, every email, every screenshot. The printer's rhythmic hum filled the silence. Each page that slid out felt like a small piece of me reclaiming itself. In the afternoon, I drove to the bank's local branch. The same one my parents had used for decades. The same one where my mother had probably smiled at a teller and signed my name like it meant nothing. The lobby smelled faintly of paper and sanitizer. Everything gleamed under the fluorescent lights. A woman in a navy suit greeted me. You must be Ms. Anders? She said gently. I'm Melissa. Please come with me. Her office was small but warm. A single potted plant by the window, framed certificates on the wall. She offered me water, which I declined. My throat was too tight for anything. I reviewed your documents, she said after a moment. You're doing the right thing coming in. But I have to ask, are you sure you want to move forward legally? These situations can get complicated when family is involved. I looked down at my hands folded in my lap. They didn't shake this time. If I don't, I said, they'll just do it again. Melissa nodded almost sadly. That's usually how it starts. She walked me through the steps. The fraud affidavit, the request for a police report, the paperwork to have the mortgage frozen pending investigation. Every signature I made felt like reclaiming something invisible. When she slid the final document toward me, she paused. This last page, she said quietly, is your official confirmation. Once you sign, the case becomes active. It can't be undone. I picked up the pen. The same tool my mother had used to take something from me. I now used to take it back. My signature looked different now, sharper, surer. When I finished, Melissa took the paper, stamped it, and said, "We'll contact you once the transfer is processed. You've done the hard part." Outside, the sky had cleared completely. The pavement still glistened from the earlier rain, and sunlight bounced off puddles like fragments of light trying to find their way home. For the first time in weeks, I noticed the smell of the air, clean, almost sweet. I drove home with the windows down. The wind tangled my hair, and I let it. For so long, I'd been living like everything fragile would break if I didn't hold it together. But it turned out I was the one breaking from holding too tightly. When I reached my apartment, I made tea again. The same chipped mug, but this time I drank it warm. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. "Mom." Of course. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Then it lit up again. Layla, then again. Mom. They didn't know yet, but they would soon. When the call stopped, a text appeared. "You're destroying this family. I hope you're proud of yourself." I didn't reply. I didn't even delete it. I just turned the phone face down on the table, like closing a door. For once, silence wasn't punishment. It was peace. That night, I lit a candle and turned off every other light in the apartment. The small flame flickered against the walls, soft and warm. I watched it dance, thought about how fragile fire looks, how easy it is to blow out, how hard it is to keep alive. But that's the thing about quiet strength. It doesn't roar. It just keeps burning, even when no one's watching. I opened my laptop to check my email again. There it was. A message from the bank. "Fraud case accepted. Signature confirmed." That was it. 4 words. But they felt like freedom. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and smiled. Not the kind of smile that hides pain. Not the one I used to wear to family dinners or when Mom asked for just one more favor. This one was small, real, quiet. I realized then I didn't want revenge. I didn't want apologies. I didn't even want them to understand. I just wanted distance. And now I had it. Outside, the last of the sunlight slipped below the horizon, painting the edges of my window gold before it disappeared. I stood up, went to the window, and opened it. The air that rushed in was cool, carrying the faint scent of wet earth and something that felt like beginning. Down below, the streetlights flickered on, one by one. "A world still turning," I whispered it softly, more to myself than to anyone else. Never again. Not in anger. Not in defiance. Just truth. I turned off the candle, the room falling into darkness except for the faint glow from the city outside. For years, I had lived inside a story that belonged to everyone but me, the dutiful daughter, the forgiving sister, the reliable one who never said no. But that night, for the first time, I stood in the quiet of my own life, and it felt still and whole. The kind of stillness that doesn't come from nothing happening, but from nothing left to prove. I sat by the window a little longer, listening to the hum of the city, the soft creak of my chair, the echo of my own heartbeat. Then I turned off my laptop, placed my mug in the sink, and reached for the light switch. Click, darkness. But this time it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like peace.